All right, well, Moses joining the desk, first look at sports. And of course, Lloydminster Bobcats having a quiet weekend, not doing much, except for one game.
Well, they only had the lone game in Sherwood Park, a nice little visit to the Edmonton region. However, it didn't look too good as they dropped that game, ending a 2-game winning streak in the process. Now, the Cats dropped that decision by a 2-1 scoreline to those Crusaders. Taylor Mulder picked up the lone tally and now has 6 goals on the year. Now, once again, the Bobcats outshot their opponents, this time 21-14, including blanking the Crew in the second period.
We played an outstanding game defensively, and we were totally committed to our defensive responsibility, our structure, our systems, and everything else.
Now, in the last 2 games, the Border City Bunch have failed to score in the first and second period and know they'll have to start producing earlier to complement their defense.
See opportunity right from the start of the game, and we got to start to believe in ourselves. This team can score goals. I mean, we've scored as many as 7 against Brooks and some of the other teams, but mentally, I think guys need to start to believe in themselves, and it's not so much gripping their sticks too tight. I think it's just we're not playing in the right area. We're not prepared to pay the price.
The Bobcats will have to regroup as they're not back on the ice till Friday when they host the Fort Mac Oil Barons. To college basketball now, the Lakeland Rustlers had mixed results over the weekend. The ladies started slow, but their size and physicality was the difference, dominating in the paint in both contests, starting the year at 2-0.
I think it showed how big we are across the board, that we physically wore them out. You could see they're kind of shying away from contact and getting flustered late.
We want them to not want to step onto that court and play us next semester. That's why these wins, this building, really impacts how we're going to play them next time. That, oh, they know that we're going to push them around, we're going to be physical, we're going to run them the floor. Even though we're bigger than them, we can still be faster than them.
Meanwhile, the men dropped both games to Concordia. More disheartening than getting swept was their play in the second game. Mental lapses, defensively leading to poor shot attempts and easy transition buckets for the Thunder.
We get a little bit of a run, and then the coach calls a timeout, and they come right back with a similar run, and negates anything that we've done. And we've got to learn to, take and not give back.
Now up next for the Rustlers is a trip to Grand Prairie for a pair of games against Keano College. Moving on to volleyball, the Rustler teams were rolling along after a decent exhibition season, and they kept that going against the Thunder from Concordia. Head coach Austin Dyer said going into the season that the first part of the regular season would be used to fine-tune their game. Now it seemed that was the case, with the Rustlers winning both matches this weekend in convincing victory.
Players were working on specific things that we were still trying to get better as a group and developing, because it's nice if we don't have to completely focus on winning and the league match that's ahead of us, and if we can still work on our own side for a couple weeks, it definitely helps with the growth of our team.
As for the men, they start the season at 2-0 for the first time since 2011. Coincidentally enough, it was against the same Concordia Thunder. The Rustlers this time won both matches in straight sets and now look ahead to their matchup with Keano College at Lakeland Gym this weekend. And then as your first look at sports, Gerard Lampow has your weather details coming up. The win means the Eskimos can clinch a home playoff game with a win or a BC Lions loss to Winnipeg on Saturday. Moving on to hockey here in town, the PWM Steelers haven't had the start to the season they were hoping for after dropping 3 of their first 9. They wanted to rebound with a win at home facing Edmonton, and that was the Thunder, by the way, the Edmonton Thunder. But the squad lacked energy and wasn't able to match the strong offense Edmonton produced and fell 9-2.
Need right now is a few more contributions in terms of goals. Basically, it's a score by committee, and we're having trouble filling the nets.
We need to capitalize on our chances more. Like, we get the chances, but we just can't bury them in the net.
That we had some glaring mistakes, just big turnovers that were costly, and it seemed like everything they had put in the net and every chance we had seemed to hit a stick, a leg, a post. One of those games.
The Steelers are away next weekend and face the Rocky Mountain Raiders. Now, when you think of sports in Lloydminster, you typically think hockey, high school football, and the Rustlers, but just 15 minutes out of town is the Lloydminster Rowing Club. And yesterday, they held an open house to mark the last weekend of the rowing season. with equipment that has been donated from Rowing Canada and an impressive collection that founder Raf Saeed has accumulated as a former Team India rower. The club is eager to show Lloydminsterites what the sport has to offer.
Introduce new horse people to the last day and then so that they're ready in May to join us. It is probably one of the greatest summer sports in the Olympics. It is the only sport today in the world where there is no professionalism. So it's truly an amateur sport.
Through frozen lakes, they can make rowing quite difficult, of course, during the winter. It's a sport that is great to pick up recreationally, but for those winter athletes that are used to the cross-training in the summer.
For the winter sports, it's a great sport for hockey players to be involved in the summer. It is a sport that's not hard on the joints. Keep your core strong. Yeah.
Some of the Team Saskatchewan coaches were also on hand to offer tips, and the fact that Lloydminster has its own club could mean big things for the sport.
It's hugely revitalizing for us. Right now we have Saskatoon and Regina have historically long clubs, and Prince Albert a little bit as well. So to have another club that's energized is really exciting.
And for locals looking to get to the biggest games on earth, rowing might be their ticket.
Since 2000 in Sydney, we've had somebody from Saskatchewan rowing go to the Olympics and compete.
So do you think we'll see maybe a Lloydminster Olympian in the...
Absolutely. I think that there's no reason not to. Rowing is a sport you can pick up later in life, and when you pick it up, you can get really good at it quite quickly if you're willing to work at it.
Well, look like Claire let Mr. Saeed take all the strokes there. Maybe she's got to learn a little bit, but hey, I digress. Nevertheless, that's all the time we have in sports. We'll have more Newcap news and weather for you after the break.